So as now we have completed successfully the validating email feature, which will check either the email already exists or not. Now that part has been completed successfully. If you want, you can use proper name, for example response body of validate email, or you can say check email. Okay, that is coming from the validate underscore email.php file, where we have implemented that backend for checking that is email found, then the value will be true. Otherwise, if email not found, then the value will be false. So now you can give proper name to it like this, response body of validate email, okay, so that you do not get confused later. So anyways, now comes the part where we have to register and save new record, the new user record, to database. So we can call here a method which we will implement now, and that will be save user record, or you can make it further proper like register and save user record. This is the method name which we will implement now, save and register and save user records. Now let's just quickly implement this method. So above here the widget build, we can say register and save user record, and this is our method asynchronous. Now the important thing that we have to implement here is basically, remember, when we want to save now the user record, that is the username, user email and user password, to the MySQL database, so that data we will send from here, from our Flutter application, to the MySQL database in the form of JSON, that is in JSON format. We will convert that to JSON format. So only in that case it will be saved to the database. It will go and save in the MySQL database. So how we can convert our user record, or you can say user data, to the JSON format? For that purpose we will create a model class. So in here, in the users directory, right click on users directory, new directory, and let's create model folder. Okay, model directory. You can see inside the users folder we have another folder, model. Right click on model, new, and let's create a dot file, and we will give it name as user. So press enter, and now on our user.dot file we can say class user. So for the user data, or you can say for the user record, you know that we have the user ID, so we can say user underscore ID, which is of integer type. Then we have the string user underscore name. Let's just quickly copy paste this for the user underscore email and password. So you can say email, password, user underscore ID, user underscore name, user underscore email, and user underscore password. Then in the constructor of our user class, you can say this dot user ID, comma this dot username, comma this dot user email, comma this dot user password, comma. Now how we will call this user model class, and how it will convert our this data, user data, to the JSON format, you will know it, I mean when we implement it, okay, step by step. And in the end of this video I will tell you how it will basically convert. Basically that part we are implementing now. That is simply, we can say map. This is now converting this user ID, name, email, password to JSON format. Okay, we are converting it to the JSON format. So we can say map string dynamic. Now string simply represents the key name, and dynamic is basically the value name. And we say to JSON. That is, we want our data, we want it to convert this to the JSON format. So simple and so easy. So I hope now you understand. So this is our key name, and in front of that we will write the value of it. Now the key name we have to write here inside this single quotes or inside the double quotes. Okay, so first of all we have our user underscore ID key. We want to send the data by the same key name user underscore ID, because in the database we have the column by the same name, user underscore ID, user underscore name, user underscore email, user underscore password. So we want to use the same key name by which we have our column, as we are saving the data into those columns. So user underscore ID is the key name, okay, using which we are sending the user ID value, and the value of this user ID is saved inside our variable, which is user ID. So we can simply write here user ID dot to string. Similarly, we have other one. For example, the username we will send by the key name user underscore name, and the value of this, and this is the string type, okay, which I told you this is string type, and this is dynamic, that is the value will be dynamic. It can be integer, it can be double, it can be any data type. So this is string, and the value of it can be dynamic. Dynamic simply means that it can be integer type, it can be double data type, it can be string data type, and so on. Okay, so this is the string dynamic combination, that is the key name is in string format always, and the value of it can be in any format. So key name, username, and the value of it is saved inside the variable name, which is user name. Okay, and so on for the other ones. Let's just quickly add that here. Okay, user email, the value of which is saved inside this variable. Then we have user password, so the key name will be user password, the value of which is saved inside the user password variable. So basically it will convert the data to the JSON format. Now how? Let me just implement that in front of you. So now we will basically call our model class user in here. Okay, class user, model class user, and let's give it name as user model user class. So to our this user class, as you know, it needs to receive these four things, that is the user ID, username, user email, user password. We have to pass to our this user model class four things. The first one is the user ID, so we can say 1, comma. The second one is basically the name which we have to pass. So the name is, you know, that it is inside our controller, name controller dot text dot trim. Okay, so the name value is inside the, using this controller, that value we are passing to this username. Then the third one is the user email, so the email value is inside the email controller, so we can say dot text dot trim. So we pass the email value to the user email variable. Okay, and then come the user password, so the user password value is inside the password controller dot trim. So we pass the password value to the user underscore password variable. So one by one we pass the ID, user ID, the name, email, and password to their required variables, or attributes. Okay, when variables are used inside a class, then they are called attributes. So one by one we assign the values of each and every attribute. Okay, for example, ID goes to ID, then name goes to the username attribute, then email goes to the user email attribute, and then password value go to the user password attribute. So as these have the values now, okay, using this constructor basically we pass that. Okay, so as it has received these values, okay, so we want to convert this to JSON. So using this to JSON, we basically convert the values to JSON format. that is, the user record is converted successfully to the JSON format. So we have to call this to JSON in order to convert it to JSON. Now how we can convert it to JSON, I have told you. First of all, we will write here try, that is, we have to communicate with the sign up PHP backend. That is, using our API we have to communicate with the MySQL server. So try, and then we have catch. So inside the try, first we can say wait HTTP post, and we have to basically provide here the link to our API and the API for user sign up. So we can say API class, okay, API dot, and it is our API dot sign up, okay, API dot sign up. If I show you, then this is our API, okay. With the help of API we want to perform the sign up functionality, that is, communicate with the MySQL server and execute this signup.php code, which is for saving the user record to the database. You already know this thing, okay. We have I have explained this in the previous video in details. So we call up our sign up with the help of our API, that is, we communicate with the SQL server for the sign up, that is to register and save new user record to the MySQL database. So the next thing is basically we have to pass the data, that is the user record, in JSON format. So you know that we pass the user model contains now the information of the user who is going to register, okay, that is their ID, name, email, password. We pass this data to our user model class, which is receiving here, okay, which receive here. So the next step is to convert it to the JSON format. So we will simply call up our this to JSON. So how we can do that? We can simply say that user model convert user model, that is the user record, convert that user record, as you know it is representing by this user model name. So we want to convert that user record or user data to the JSON format. So we will call up our to JSON, that is this one, to JSON. So it will convert this data to JSON format. So as we have the data in JSON format, it will be now we can communicate easily. As you know, MySQL database will accept the data for storing, okay, for saving in MySQL database. It accept only the JSON format. That's why we convert this to the JSON format. So the response will come from the server, and that response we will assign to this variable. Let's give it name as response equals to this, okay, just like this.